I would give him a haircut when I came back.
I'm,
Holiday.
I'm starting to do that with my son. Like every time we go visit family in California, he gets a haircut.
Yeah, I would fly when I set a time for my haircut. I was like, cool. Because she was awesome at that. So she cut my hair in New York twice when I lived out there. She flew out for other things and then cut my hair both times.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Nailed it. Phone is really good.
so, the 25th, I will not be here. Next
May
25th,
25th.
yeah,
Okay.
that's
The special,
the special
okay.
meeting, yeah.
Oh, crap. May 25th.
will you not be here either? Okay.
I'm going in on the 23rd to get my left shoulder replaced. So
Okay,
And you could do a Zoom while you're super high on the drugs.
right? Just be an easy one.
you could all watch me slobber on
It'd be
myself.
fun.
Everybody, I think you'd
Oh,
have
yeah.
fun.
Oh,
You'd
yeah.
have fun. We'd have fun. I think it's like a win-win. I
I
think that's what
think
they
so.
call that.
You know,
Oh my God.
might be right.
I think. Rate setting maybe. Forget it.
You wouldn't want to volunteer.
Yeah,
next
utility
Wednesday,
rate
would you?
setting.
For what, sir?
Be the starter for the middle school track meet. Shoot me in the head.
I mean,
It
let's see, next Wednesday?
it takes forever. I'm kidding you.
I'm trying to think of what next Wednesday, because I actually, I can't next Wednesday. Because I'm having to cook.
Well done, well done.
I know I have to cancel Cooking Cousins to do something else next Wednesday, so yeah, no, I already.
It takes forever. They've got 500 heats of each event and
500 of each of
oh,
all the
Everyone-
kids get to run all.
yeah. No false starts, everybody.
You monitor
wins.
false starts, right? You'll-
What's that?
You'll shoot on your own. No one else is telling you. So it's more than just.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
takes forever. They moved the running events back, supposed to start at 4 now, the running events start at 4:30. Which means that we'll be doing run
Oh, I
events
forgot.
till 7:30 or 8 o'clock.
that's awesome.
So,
Yeah, they never let me run track, Dave, because you can't do two sports at the same
Oh,
time.
you were playing baseball.
Yeah, in Oregon, I can do two at the same time.
Yeah.
In Washington, you can. And so they were gonna let me run on a 4x1 relay, then only do that.
Yeah.
In Oregon, when I was in private school, and then when I came back there, they were like, can't do two
There's
sports.
something weird.
I just want to do one event. They're like, no. So,
Weird.
hi, Christy.
Hi.
Did you ever find your
Hi, Mayor.
dog?
No,
You
What?
do. Some low life took
Yes.
it. Well, there.
I could only hope that that's it, you know?
Hi, Scott.
Hello.
How are you?
I am well.
Good. You looking good. Look a little ornery, but. There.
No, I just every couple of years do that, so it just worked out. Timing was it's getting hot, and that's cut my hair.
Thank you. Carolyn, how you doing?
pretty good, Dave.
How's the little one?
She is a very happy child.
Sleeping well at night?
No,
Still happy though.
She's happy.
She's happy. I didn't say I was.
Happy, happy, happy.
Bad though, because she wakes up and she doesn't scream, but she like talks and talks and talks and just gets louder and louder. Okay. Wait for the screams, or I can take care of this now. Should I bring her into one of the meetings?
Should. My son's 9 and he still talks and talks and talks when he wakes up. So
I talk and talk and talk, and I'm not awake. Anyway, that's what my wife says.
I believe her.
Our 4-year-old's a little champion. She has been, so every once in a while I'll be able to get up before them and I'll like sneak into the room next door and I'll like do a, like a yoga workout or something. And I'll hear my 4-year-old gets up and she's like, "Oh, Ember, you're awake." And she'll change her diaper. Yeah.
Oh,
she'll
wow.
go-
Your 4-year-old?
Yeah,
That's
she'll go
awesome.
and like get her, get her diaper, she'll get all her jammies off and she, like changes her and picks out her clothes for the day. And yeah,
that's great.
that's so cute.
That is.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then I have to go and like redo it.
We should try.
Take the diaper off the head.
Right, exactly, right.
All right, let's get started. It's 6 o'clock.
Okay. I'll share my screen so that it's easier to follow along. So we're going to be reviewing the strategic plan to identify, reaffirm, and then identify projects for 2024 so we can start the budgeting process, because on May 8th is when applications open for Public Works Trust Fund. And so other funding sources open up soon as well for projects that will then start in the following year. So again, before we kind of go forward with applying, want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the plan. And I think David was the only one that wasn't here for it. And so again, we took almost 3 days going through a process of identifying, basically a SWOT analysis, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and then we kind of coalesce them down into various
Sticky notes.
Yes, lots of sticky notes that moved nicely. And so we moved them into multiple focus areas. So the first one was organizational health and sustainability. The second one was infrastructure. And then the last one was intentional development. And that was more about being proactive rather than reactive with what we were doing. And so again, in each of these, there's then more strategies that fall out of that. And that's where council ended, was with the strategies. And then staff picked it up and came up with the action items. And then there are further items under those action items, and that's what has been added to this from what you've seen in the past. And so what we've been given quarterly, although it hasn't looked like this, but it was kind of in the Excel spreadsheet, was, so this is kind of just a status update as far as where projects stand. So of the projects that are in progress, 20 of them are proceeding on track, 11 have slow progress, and 2 were projects that were unplanned or moved. So one of those is the Park Plaza project. It was sort of planned for later in the year, but it's been moved up from a capital planning standpoint from when this was originally done. And then Cloud Permit is another project, and that was the county transitioning their building permitting platform. And that is going on now, and it's very intensive, and they're hoping to have it live within a couple of weeks. So phase 1 for the building permit. And then the whole project, we'll see if it shakes out that way by the end of July, basically, would be planning and code enforcement as well. So, and that was all dependent on the county. And then again, so we have 36 projects that aren't started, 30 that are in progress, 4 that are complete, yay. And 1 that's on hold, and typically the on hold ones are waiting for things that are in progress to complete. And then we also, in kind of determining some of those breakouts, we did kind of an analysis of how much time each project would take. And it's challenging because it's on not every project is happening all at once. And so, but when that project is happening, this is the time that it takes. So it's either low involvement, which is not a lot of time, medium involvement, which is like half our time, and then high involvement, which is a majority of our time. And so, as you can see, a majority of projects are half of our time, with 10% being a majority of our time. And then these are kind of how the action items as well as the tasks for other sub projects are kind of broken down by staff. So with all of this, it's way too much, not just for staff to manage, but also for our budget to manage. We don't have the money to do all of these things, as well as the staff to support all of these. And as well as there were a couple of projects that have been discussed to, in essence, be added to the plan. And so if those want to be added to the plan, something on the plan needs to come off. And so that's in essence why we're here.
And the plan was a 3-year or was it a 5-year?
The plan was a 5-year. So I can pull it up. I don't know if it would share easily, but so this is the original document. And it was granted, this reporting tool only did a couple of years, only went to 2025. The plan that we were working on was over 5 years because we have 3 sort of buckets as far as time frame: 1 to 2 years, 3 to 5 years, and then 5 or more years as far as the time it takes to get something done.
And more than half of the one dashboard have ones that are in progress versus not started versus done. Like more than half of them were started in year 1.
Out of a 5-year plan, I feel like that's not.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So of the ones that aren't well, I guess it could be any of them. If we have 3 possible new projects, and I think what was said on the write-up is all 3 of them were medium as far as workload. Are there any prime candidates on the strategic plan that either aren't happening as quickly as you thought they would, or I don't know, ones that aren't started that would be prime candidates, say, if we wanted to make room for those 3 other projects?
So so do we want to look at what's not started and go from there?
I mean, you guys are the
Okay.
ones doing the work, so I figured you'd know the best place to look at where there's flexibility. That's what makes sense to me, the stuff that's not started.
Well, I see a lot of them that don't have dots.
So I only put dots on the ones that were in progress,
Oh, okay.
because that's the schedule, like whether they're on schedule, and if they aren't started, they're pretty much on schedule. If that makes sense.
Because also, I mean, if this is a 5-year strategic plan, we're 1 year in to the 5-year plan. And I think all 3 of those projects were listed as 1 to 2 years. It'd just be possibly taking up 1 to 2 years in the middle of the 5-year plan. And then if things are taking longer to get to, you can still get to them in year 4 or 5 or something.
And this will feed into the CIP as well. So I think, I don't see anything needing to change for the governance. We're in the middle of the SDC and the rate study. And so that's not going anywhere. There's a lot under the tools and training for staff that we're still working on getting under us, and that I think will help us move along faster once those are all done. And so I mean, and the fire hall hasn't started yet.
Where are they on the strategic plan? Do you know? Have you heard any more?
We're making this, we're doing the survey, we're reviewing the survey now that will go out to the department. And then we have a follow-up meeting scheduled for the 2nd to go over. We have a draft of sort of what their involvement looks like, and it's gonna be different than what they typically do. They typically do like 2 days of workshop, but because we're volunteer based and the time involvement is different, they proposed an alternative schedule for that. And we'll talk about that on the 2nd, and then we'll go from there, get it all scheduled moving forward. The parking is moving forward. To be wrapped up, or some of these phases to be wrapped up, possibly in a couple months, and then others by the end of the year. And Ben and Carolyn, feel free to chime in if there's anything you see. A big bulk of the projects are under what was formerly just one line, and then I added to it. So it was formerly just current maintenance, identify, plan, and prioritize deferred maintenance, and that was it. So that's all you saw. But it is a lot more than just that one line. And so this is where we pulled in all the products that we're working on this year, some that we're working on for next year. And again, this is where I haven't put in the entire CIP that we have, but in essence, that's what this is. Projects that are in process that are moving forward.
Are we trying to take 3 off of here? Or reprioritize it?
Well, I guess the question is, after looking at this, are these 3 still needing to be on here? And if so, where would they fit? And then yes, what comes off?
Yeah, and basically my question was, what would be the least disruptive to put on hold with where we are with the workflow currently, if we wanted to do all 3 of those projects?
lot to pick from.
Mhm. We will be receiving the grant for the RCO, for the Parks Plan. They did get additional funding. And we're- yeah, so. Mhm.
So we were right on the.
We were like 21. We were tied for third for 21. And they got an additional like $5 million, I think, so.
Dave, you got nothing?
Right.
Come on, man.
I mean, I feel like storm water utility. Maybe goes under strategy 3 utilities. Maintenance of current and new growth. It wouldn't be a current. It would be a current maintenance item, but it would be a new. It would be new.
Mhm.
Oh, it would be financial. Mhm.
And then what gets displaced? So First Street, we're required to do those.
Mhm.
I mean. Good.
Do you want to do like an icebreaker for? everyone?
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
What's been working well for, in your
Right.
perspective for the strategic plan or
Mhm.
like. We can start that soon. Like, this is your plan.
Sit here and sing kumbaya.
This is our,
Right.
this is our plan, but at the
just got
same
here.
time, we worked on it with you, with the staff, and the staff is who implements everything here. So a year ago, we sat together and said, what's important? Because remember, we had different colors, like what's important
Right.
to the people doing the job and what's important to me, looking from the outside going, in my opinion, this would be important to the city of Stevenson. And we kind of came to a consensus and it worked really well. But now we're coming a year later going, so what has been working well of those things? Are we putting pressure on you to do something that isn't going to fall in something that matters or something that would be an impactful as something else? I don't want to take something off or move something later that's going to make a bigger impact for the betterment of the city by throwing on fireworks into the middle of something and then being like, yeah, cool, we're going to take this time and work on this regulation. And it's a pretty big investment to get that done.
Mhm.
And instead of, we're going to do that in lieu of fixing this, whatever, the parking or the street, or like, what matters and where do we prioritize that in the rank of what's been working and what hasn't been working for the staff getting things done?
I feel like fireworks are low priority.
Well, I mean, now we did find out that, I mean, there is
Right,
you have
the
the
emergency
power.
thing.
And at this point wouldn't be abused because of your take on everything. And so as a mayor, I'm not concerned, in my opinion, about that one. I bumped that to the lowest of the 3 by far.
Agree.
But if we're looking at like the stormwater utility, right, is that something that should take precedence over something else that we're doing that maybe is going to take longer, or maybe we were going to start it, but now it's not falling into, like, I don't know the answer to that.
What's
Right.
not on here is the CLG program, the certified local government. Got a lot of,
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, yeah, for the historic.
yeah, I think that one, most of the work is gonna be done.
Yeah,
outside
but
of
what are we gonna
this.
displace to put that on there?
But that one, all the paperwork is done, all we've gotta do is.
Right. Well, she
Or
said
what-
that could be done in a month.
So that feels like low hanging fruit, but now, we talked about this briefly at our staff meeting last week, what stormwater utility. Because right now, any work that's done on stormwater comes out of streets. And you had a number for what was set aside for maintenance. Just maintenance, correct?
Yeah. I don't have it in front of me now.
It was like $30,000.
Yeah.
$30,000
Mhm.
for a year.
Mhm.
Divided over the 12 months over the water customers.
So a
So
lot of customers.
Right, so I mean, if you just do that off the cuff estimate, it works out to like $10 per property.
well, it was over 5 but less than 10, but that's just
Yeah,
for
yeah.
maintenance. Obviously, you want to build in a little bit more so that you have a slush fund for whatever expansion projects, whatever. But then there's rate analysis. There was something else that made it more of a bear. than just-
Identifying all the capital projects that will need to be done and costing those out to feed into the rates.
Because at first I was like, oh boy, another handout, another put your hand out. But
Mhm.
at $10-ish a month per person, and it doesn't have that projected hockey stick like the sewer rates do. Right. And it's a way to, then the other part of that is that money that's generated for storm is now freed up in streets. So imagine what we could do with $30,000 in streets because it's now being generated outside of
doing its
that.
own. Right.
So it's a bit of a bear, but it does have some, it's not as treacherous as it would appear on the surface, and it does have some pretty cool.
Right, it's got some positive, and that's what I'm saying, like something like that makes sense to me to put that in, to do something like that for us. Because long-term, that's gonna be a positive for the city. But I'm not on the ground to go, well, because that totally makes sense, and I feel like it should absolutely be included. I wanna take this off. Like, or this, I don't think, it's not started yet, and I don't think, let's do it instead. But what's that,
Well, but then, okay, so right now, it's out of those three things, what's important in a vacuum compared to all the things that are on the list, maybe there's nothing that anybody wants to sacrifice over
Right.
stormwater utility.
Well, and I'm trying to find where you don't necessarily have to sacrifice anything. That's why I was
right, you're saying like
asking,
later,
Where,
yeah, just
where are we at in the
reprioritize it.
development cycle? What's not ready yet? What can we get done while we're waiting?
We can put a 1 to 2 to up to a 3 to 5, just
right?
push it out. For a CLG that would be done in 6 months.
That or any of the other three that are on there.
I think one of the things we've run into also is like, yeah, the stormwater one, let's say that, right? Let's say it's gonna take 6 months
Or a year.
or a year, right? And we absolutely want to do that. And we're like, well, we could just push out something else, right? But right now we have maximum amount of projects going. Like, we can't start it and go, let's push something else out. We either have to stop something or wait till something else is done that has that much time in it. Like, we can put it on we could maybe add it to the calendar, but we have to go, okay, well, we know it's not starting until we finish these things, because that's the slot it's gonna take. It takes these people this much time, and right now they're doing 30 other projects that are all taking time. So adding it is great, and pushing something else out, I don't have an issue with, but we just have to look at feasibility, because that's not, if we're gonna put it on today's calendar and add it today, then that means something else has to stop today to make that happen. Right? I mean, you guys just don't have hours, we're just sitting around
Well,
waiting for.
Circling back to Liana's point, is it's a lot easier to plan a budget when you know what you're budgeting for. So that's kind of where we're at right now, is if it stays as is, these are the things that we're applying for money for. Sure. Getting loans for, whatever, so. Not so much what can be stopped right now, but some things are already underway because of budget, there's other things that would have to be budgeted for. So what are some of the short-term projects that are kind of stalled, or are there any?
Annexation policy is not moving as fast as I'd like it to be moving.
What's that?
Annexation policy.
And I kind of figured that would move a little faster than it did, but that was partially because it got brought up, and then now that one's done, it's like, well.
So here's all the yellow. Sorry if it's an eye chart. I can make it bigger.
Yeah, let's take up wastewater treatment improvements.
I'd love to.
Take off.
So all of the yellow are stalled out right now,
Just
or
not moving.
They're just taking longer.
it's just taking longer?
I mean, you had an estimate of 1 to 2 years on all the potential projects. These are stalled out long enough to accommodate that amount of work? I know that's like crystal ball stuff, but
1 to 2 years is like that, it'd be completed in 1 to 2 years.
okay. Not like. Okay,
It takes 1 to 2 years to do.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
just short term,
okay,
short, medium and long range is kind
Okay.
of how the,
gotcha.
I mean, a couple of these aren't yet started.
And I assume with the Park Plaza, the construction is separated out from all the other stuff that's actually actively needing to be done, like you have a line item for like,
In this, no, I don't. It's
Okay.
okay. It's all one item.
So what about 81 and 82 line zoning?
Yeah, those haven't started. So we were working with the county community development director. And they're working on that position.
Former public works director.
Yeah, in the phone call. Yeah. And then the overall health safety, again, that just the election cycle kind of. I don't know.
What is partnering more on overall public safety?
Get you back on the beat, Dave. That's what it is.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
And maybe that just needs more clarity as well. I mean, that was just sticking it on the wall. So,
I mean, you could maybe just turn that into fireworks, because that would be partnering up more on overall public safety.
Or we could just not add fireworks and.
I feel like the fireworks thing is something that is easy to just bump off continually and will never go away if you keep on bumping it off down the road.
Yeah, but we've got Scott. He can do
Until-
the emergency thing.
We don't.
Right, until
And if need
we
be.
don't have Scott, until we have, I don't know, a picture of the person that you would least like to see mayor.
No, thank you.
Exactly. I'm just saying that it's,
You think that's more important than other things on here?
I'm saying it could be something that we could get done while the other things are waiting. Because it seemed like there was a fairly clear recommendation from the fire chief as to next steps. Whereas some of these things were just kind of waiting to see where they go. Or getting stalled because it's on an election cycle or whatever.
Obviously, this isn't the meeting to dive into fireworks, but there were so many issues that would have to be like just complete and total lack of enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Just notice that right there.
That
It
was a
said
big problem.
big note.
Mm-hmm.
So really it would only be about potentially stopping sales. And I don't know if anybody's interested in that.
No,
Well, it's not just preventing sales. I mean, it's. If we're not shutting down sales, but we are saying, say, red flag warning, don't put off fireworks at this time. I mean,
Well, we already do that.
yeah, we do that.
for fireworks,
Absolutely.
Mhm.
there's no legal restriction, but we do encourage people not to let off fireworks.
Fire chief has put out notices before that we're going into a red flag warning. Yeah.
Mhm.
In fact, the interagency fire has put out that July of this next year, of this coming year, is going to be a red flag warning area. This whole Skamania County, Morrow County, all of that for the month of July. That's what they're predicting on the weather.
Remind me what we kind of results we got from the poll that we did about the fireworks. I
It
can't
was split.
remember.
It was split, and some of the concerns were about fire, other of the concerns were about the noise. PTSD, right,
yeah.
so it was, but it really was split.
And how much time is involved on the relocating public works at the council level?
Well, that game's definitely kicked.
Yeah, the council, level, no, yeah, I'd see it as like the fire
Mhm.
hall project as far as determining the location. So,
So what about
I mean,
the,
we've kicked that can, but it's not on any list and it needs to be.
the parks and outdoor spaces?
Well, now that we've got that
Like
grant,
we-
we're up and running.
Well, just for the park plaza, but what about all the other stuff? Like dog park? Green space?
That will flow, all of those are
Part of the park.
part of the parks plan, and so that's why it's sort of not. Nothing's been started
Mhm.
because but those are parts of a parks plan. And they were just stickies listed in.
All right, so far I haven't seen, except for the relocating public works, that will require some cash. But all the other ones are really just finding ways to get some time for staff. CLG feels like an easy home run. It's an easy win because it's gonna find getting the board appointed.
I already said I'm in.
Yeah, and all the paperwork is done, in that part, but,
Mhm.
It would
the-
also be another meeting to manage. So,
that'd be more of an SDA thing, wouldn't it?
not if it's a city, it'd be city board.
Somebody's
Thanks.
creating agendas, somebody's the agenda.
Yeah,
Well, it's not.
it's kind of like the TAC
Does it
is how
need
I look
enough?
at it, but, well, that's a question for the board. So,
I keep.
and then
pushing
work
out
that
there,
they,
just Like, hey, don't forget.
right, well, and then work that they would want to do as well.
Okay, but anyway. Things that would require budget consideration. So far, it's relocating public works. And
Stormwater utility for the rate study,
that's not
Unless-
included in the existing rate setting,
stormwater, no.
not part of this. So the-
Mm-mm. Doing, yeah, water sewer.
Well, that should probably get started sooner than later. Because that does have positive ramifications on
Mhm.
other budgets. And are we paying for this current?
Rate study?
Yeah.
I want to say 62,000 maybe. The total contract.
Well, a lot more moving parts.
I think, again, the key with that utility though is that we don't have a list of assets or a list of projects that will be needed in the future, costed out to then determine what that rate should be.
So that's more of a 3 to 5 then, yeah? Or tell me I'm wrong, I don't.
Yeah.
It just feels
Well,
like it's
and then there's
one thing
also,
and then the next and then the next.
yeah, and then with the stormwater utility, then there's the question that was posed earlier in the year as to whether or not we want to then take over the infrastructure from the failed HOAs.
Failed or abandoned.
Yeah.
Abandoned.
Yeah,
I don't want to do this anymore.
So-
Neither do I. Let's take a look. We're out.
right. Can we do that?
So luckily approved it. We got the approval, now we're out.
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah, because we're in no position as the city to go, hey, not so fast. I digress.
Mhm.
Especially if they have their meetings in secret. They're not required to
Shut the
report,
water off.
they're not required to report that they have abandoned their HOA. Yeah, the whole thing just drives me crazy.
So,
This is moving along.
very nicely.
Well, I mean, it took
Right.
us 3 days to figure the this out to
Yes.
begin with.
Yes. And that's where it's like, okay, so what are the overall priorities? I mean, I think so we can kind of take a step back and look at the bigger picture, and maybe start there. So, I mean, here's the short list. So, and some of these are already, so again, broadband we were kind of moving along on that or putting it on the back burner. Again, a lot of these are driven by opportunity and what other agencies are doing or requiring. And,
Get money.
right,
Broadband is almost fallen in our lap.
Right,
It
that
certainly
changed.
wasn't anything that we were out shaking bushes. It was just showed up at the door.
well, and part of this plan is being poised to take advantage of those opportunities as well.
Especially with broadband.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just how do we manage it all?
Okay, and then also this plan was put together before we added another staff person. How has that been working out? Do you guys feel, or is it just, you just molded into that extra space and you're still just very, very busy?
Yes,
Love
but
it, and yes.
also, it's working out well. So higher quality of products, faster turnaround for permitting decisions and things that do impact the strategy and focus area.
She's lovely. I need different things. Public Works Department needs different things.
She's
No, but I mean, it helps on the permitting side of things, but that's not the bulk of.
That's not,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Right.
not what I'm trying to like really manage. So,
You're more into the infrastructure,
yeah.
and
So,
maintaining the infrastructure.
yeah.
And
And,
then-
and I should probably figure out how better to utilize her.
And then how that all works with annexation. And what kind of impacts annexation has on the existing infrastructure.
At the boots on the ground level for me, the detail that you guys have, and I'm saying this just for me, not because it's the way it should be. Detail that you have to say, here's the 4 projects that we're expecting you to do within a certain timeline, helps me say no to other projects. And so like, if we're here where Ben's got 8 projects going on, I love that. Got council direction. I'm sticking to 8. I can deliver those on time and at quality. If you're looking at that same dynamic from the honest perspective, she's got 17. That's too many.
Absolutely.
And so it's not just like pulling these projects off. It's stripping other projects out of it. Trying to be more like now me putting my strategic hat on, it seems like we've got a lot of transportation improvements, like this corridor needs a sidewalk, not just it needs to be repaved. We've got sidewalk needs here, and we're trying to manage all these and squeeze these capital projects in. And each one of those capital projects that we do is more difficult because we don't have a guiding transportation document the way we have for sewer. And so sewer, we've got our marching orders, we're doing it, and it's this giant, I've been describing it as the pig that's moving through the python. And it is, and that's taken up all the space. And so not only does that raise like what everybody has to do just for that, it's stripping out the time that could be taken to develop the transportation system plan, to make the transportation projects easier. stripping out the time to do the asset inventory and get those into the, whatever we're calling it, technology improvement infrastructure. So it seems like if we get council direction to say, focus on maintaining streets, as in repaving, maintaining streets, not improving, adding function to street.
Well, except for Lakeview, right?
Yeah, there you
Well,
go.
so again, and that's where the decisions here and kind of what Ben was talking about as far as like, there's a lot of projects going on. So what that's gonna result in from a resource standpoint, again, staff time and also money is hard decisions on the CIP so that we're only doing 1 or 2 projects a year. And then that reflects the TIP as well. And so that discussion will happen at the next council meeting, but it will be, with wastewater, we were forced to do all these projects all at once. And it's kind of that effect of like, oh, well, this looks nice. Well, now let's make this look nice. And it just kind of snowballs from there. And so we kind of need to take a step back because right now, the way that it's snowballing, I don't know if we can afford it on a continual basis. Again, we're still in the middle of the rate study. So I don't know what it would do to the rates to do that continued water project, sewer expansion, trying to kind of do all of those at the same time.
Can we cut back on strategy 3 on a bunch of that stuff that's not even started? Does that help?
The one that is glaring to me, but I'm not really doing anything with it, is the Columbia Avenue realignment.
The one that's glaring to me is Lakeview. Because it's gonna come back in here, but that doesn't happen.
Sorry,
Oh.
not started. The construction hasn't started. They're designing it.
It's in progress.
So it's in progress.
Well, I'm just looking at the stuff that says not started.
Oh,
Yeah.
There's a lot.
I was doing it under,
yeah, Loop Road overlays, that's kind of pushed out, I don't even know.
Yeah.
That's a good project. Frank John South, Lasher Corridor, I mean, those are all, like Ben was saying, add sidewalk, to these things, but they also have a deferred maintenance component to them. Water, and it's like a water piece for Frank John South, and there's road surface and hydrants and Lasher. So
and Lasha, there's,
we were looking for money for that one and we didn't get it. We're like, oh, there's a funding opportunity. What project do we think we have that would fit, that would suit that? And then we went after it and we didn't get the money. So it's like, now it's a little bit more of like a shelf project where maybe we go after that again when there's a little bit more breathing room.
there's also a timeline component on that for opportunity in that there's an agreement, a developer agreement, where some of the neighboring property owners would have to pay a proportion of the improvements. It wouldn't cover a bulk of the cost, but it would cover some of it. And that would expire in 2030. Again,
That's true.
that's an opportunity cost that would be lost if that's shelved, but like, not saying it would be worth it. I don't know what the cost is.
So what about down in the intentional development focus area 3? Everything says not started. Is there any room for backburnering that?
No, so sorry. We're in the middle of doing the engineering standards, which is a necessity. And then parking requirements are being addressed further up. The annexation policies, that's in progress, but again, that's in partnership with the county. And they're still working on we're waiting for their staff turnover to kind of calm down a bit.
Doesn't feel like there's room to move anything. Right, Dave?
But again, it was a hard list to come up with in the first place.
Right.
And so that's where,
Well, I mean, I could just keep going through
well, and
everything.
so, right, no, exactly. And that's why staff doesn't have really any recommendations. It's, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard.
I know I rely on Dave
yeah.
and he is just as quiet as a church mouse for the first time ever.
Well, this unfortunately reminds me of when the commissioners came to us when I was doing the budget for the sheriff's office, and they said, we need you to cut $1.5 million out of your budget. Sheriff came into my office.
No problem.
Yeah, the sheriff came to the office and he says, what do you think? Yeah, that's exactly what I did. So we started but it takes making some major adjustments to how you think about providing service. What is city governance here for? And when I think of infrastructure.
But infrastructure has two components,
Mhm.
keeping what we have working,
That's exactly right.
planning ahead for growth.
Yes. Yes,
Encouraging.
which then goes towards annexation, like what we've been talking about.
One,
And the wastewater one, or the stormwater, again, falls into more than one category because it falls under financial health to an extent as well, right? We're gonna be, it's gonna change the way that's not coming out of one budget. It's gonna be creating a different pool. So it's not, it can go in more than one spot, but it takes time and it's gonna take some money up front. So is there something else that we think isn't prioritized as high or wouldn't have the benefit? It's like, you gotta weigh the cost benefit. And this has a definite long-term benefit. Is there something else that on this list? But I feel like we spent so much time trying to find things that had a positive on the cost benefit side. Like that was the reason we were doing this.
We did,
So-
and that's why I don't have a problem with not moving something to put fireworks on there.
It's going to come up again in July.
Well, like we've been saying, we worked on this for 3 days
Yeah,
and we didn't even think of fireworks.
and we had our second meeting on July 7th.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right, so it didn't
So-
even come up.
yeah.
So just bumping something for that just feels not right.
So of the things now that we can kind of just strolling back and forth, scrolling and scrolling.
Mhm. I was sorry, I pulled this up because I was kind of putting up the mission statement that we have. Where Stevenson is committed to investing in improved infrastructure, stewardship, community, and human development. We will adapt, evolve, and progress to maintain our resilient and inviting small town feel in an agile / nimble and fiscally responsible way. We couldn't decide on those words. So both, yeah,
Boy, that can be boiled down.
so.
Nimbly pimbly.
Yes. And maybe it's a matter of, yes, these other items are important. However, what we have on our list is more important right now, and we just have a parking lot for these things. And we'll
Parking lot.
reassess again at next year's review.
The other part though is that as projects kind of swirl around, the stormwater
Mhm.
So maybe that's
Well, that's,
direction on its own, like,
Yeah.
we'd really like to do that, but can't, so then that could be still in the back,
in the
not as
parking lot.
far in the
Right,
back burner.
right.
It'd be in the handicap spot, right up by the door.
Mhm, I like that.
And we can see, where that lift can fit also on the CIP. Kind of planning for the larger projects that take time. So,
Well, and then the CIP is our purposeful, intentional planning built in. That's something that you guys have already chimed in on. That's kind of like the marching orders right there.
So CIP is the capital improvement plan.
yeah, and so a stormwater utility rate study and creation would be part of that as a strategic item on creating capital projects, because we have the water system plan on there.
Yeah, I just can't get the maintenance done. So.
Right, so again, if we shrink what's on the CIP.
So it doesn't feel like we're moving to me,
Okay.
so,
Now,
I mean.
Well, I guess that solidifies the plan that we have.
Right.
We have, so there we go.
solidified this, wait,
I mean, I could
Right,
go
right.
through the entire list and ask
Oh.
you, should we cut this, but
Right,
let's just
Yeah.
pretend I did that.
yeah. Mhm. I mean, we, again, so we've seen this a couple of times, and so just trying to double check and see if there's anything on here that can fall off
I feel
and
like I triple checked. Quadruple checked.
kind of shows that the 3 days was worth it, because
Yeah.
it's just a nice list.
Mhm.
Solid, yeah, man,
Oh, that was a lot of work.
over a holiday weekend.
That was a lot of sticky notes too.
More holiday weekend.
And that was a holiday weekend. We're good at that.
Even though that's the only time we did that, but it's forever gonna be burned.
Oh, yeah.
We got food though.
Yeah, July 7th was like after, because the
Mhm.
4th of July was like in the middle of the week, right?
Yeah.
So,
Was it Monday or Tuesday?
When did you do that?
yeah.
We got fed. It was fine.
Well, if you look at this too,
I'm not
there's a
looking at it
lot
anymore.
of focus on utilities
Mhm,
within this plan right now, currently.
absolutely.
That is
The-
big
Which
source
is-
of revenue.
Which is exactly. It's revenue driven,
Mhm.
and it is also opportunity driven. The revenues are available, you use the revenues because it's the most logical thing to do.
Well, the other part about this meeting is not so much what needs to be pushed out, but reminder to all of you how, what we're working on. Because remember, part of this,
That's
like,
good. It's
like it
been a
keeps
while.
popping up, is it gives you guidance for when to say no. So that's, obviously, it's
So
weird to
forward
say it a couple
pressure.
of times, but yeah, we love seeing this with this eye for attention
Mhm.
was important.
Push back a little bit, is that it helps us say no to new projects. But we collectively weren't able to say no to all of these, which have been too much for.
Right.
For everyone.
So what we need to do is we need to cut down the number of things that the staff is currently working on.
Lengthen expectations on delivery.
Exactly, exactly.
I have a question about that part. So when you say we need to lengthen expectations on delivery. Personally, and I'm only speaking for me because I can't speak for the entire council, I'll speak for me. I get my expectations for delivery from you. I don't get I don't come to you and go, you know what, Ben, if you don't have the parking thing done in 6 months, I'm gonna be super
you doing?
upset. And I think
What
you're
have
just
you
sitting
been
around.
doing, Ben?
You know what I'm saying? Like, I get those timelines from you. So when you say I have too many projects that are on my plate today, I go, why did we start 17 for her if she can only do 14 or 12 or 9 effectively? Why, like, I'm not, and I'm not coming, I'm not
Yeah,
even
Yeah.
trying to be judgmental. I'm just saying those timelines are not dictated by us. We go, how long is this going to take? And if you say it's going to take 18 months, it's going to take 2 years. Okay, do we need to find more help? Can we make things go faster? That's one way. Can we partner with someone? I don't know the answers to that, but I don't feel, I understand what you're saying. There's too much going on and the timelines are too short, extend some timelines. But I didn't give a timeline.
And you're
Is
hearing,
that fair?
it's fair. You're hearing guilt, like, we want to do.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Well, and it's more.
I know, I understand you.
Yeah.
I truly do appreciate the amount of work that you guys do and the effort that you want to make things better. You want to get this plan done. You want to do the things that we all said we'd like to see done. But I'm not trying to hold your feet to the fire to get 30 projects going today. I'm just saying, what do we have? I'm asking you, what can we slow down on? What can we move so that you guys can breathe and get these done as effectively as possible with the staff we have today? Because we'd like to have more, we'd like to have more options, but what can we do effectively today, right? Because we're not trying to burn you guys out and make you never not want to come back to work. That's the opposite of what we want. We don't need turnover. We want this to be what you want out of your day.
And where it mostly manifests itself is when we get feedback from the public about like, why is this taking so long? And so that's where we try to get our timelines and do it in the best possible timeline. And that's how we're driven, is like, yes, we want to solve the problem just as much as you do. And that's,
Right, and I appreciate that.
So-
That's where our informed consent training comes in.
In incident management, you have a span of control. And to me, looking at it from the incident management standpoint, we've got folks that are way beyond their span of control.
What?
It's span of control,
Oh,
span of control. They, within incident management, they say you have maximum, you can maximize your effectiveness by basically not managing any more than 7 individuals within the ICS structure, incident command structure. When you go beyond that point, then you start losing your effectiveness. If you go beyond that point, that means you have to split more and take that span of control and move it downward. And I get the whole aspect of, well, the public comes in and says, well, how come my building permit isn't done yet, or yada, yada, yada. And so you got that pressure from that side. But yet you feel guilty because you got these projects that you're trying to work on, and you know that you can't put the time in over here because it's like grabbing hold of a balloon, squeezing it, and it's going to pop out here, it's going to pop out there. So I guess what I would like to know is from each one of you, what are your top priorities? What do you feel are probably the 5 top priorities that you need to be focused on? That's what I would like to know. Because I could come up with all kinds of ideas on where we need to go with the city and everything else. But what are the top 5 things that you are currently working on that you feel you need to be able to take your time and work on it, rather than trying to put out all these other little fires and things that are going on? And then if we need to take a look at, okay, maybe we need to bring in more help, like Michael's saying. I mean, I don't know, but we need to know where you guys are at, where you can still, at least have your nose above water and breathe. And then if we start getting pulled down, then, okay, what do we need to do to build that back up underneath you guys? That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, because the overall plan, absolutely we helped come up with, but the day to day, I don't know what it takes for, what you have to do each day for each one of these projects and what you're not doing because you have too many going on. And does that mean that this thing here that we're doing that is absolutely vitally important, but if I do that, I'm only going to do these halfway, I'm only going to get these mostly done when that's just not. That's not what you want to do. I know that's not what you want to do. So
What do you guys see realistically coming out from under the wastewater upgrade? 18 months, 24 months? Like as far as putting a burden on your time?
Oh, personally for me, you asked like, what should I be doing that I am not doing? I am not on the grade, like reviewing construction projects like we should be. Schneider, like they did all of that subgrade work. We got our eyes on it not once. And because we did that, because we prioritized other things besides that, they now are having to go in and like do a bunch of dig outs because we weren't there like babysitting. We want to babysit, like we should be babysitting our construction projects. We're going to have those for, half a decade or more. Like that is absolutely, if you don't catch those mistakes, that will bite you and be very, very expensive later.
So Carolyn, what
That's
would it
the
take to catch those mistakes?
You need to be able to go.
More people?
Yeah. Someone to be able to, what's hard, or what I'm finding is hard, and it's, I guess, a good problem to have is that there's money available to do some of the things we know and want to do. Like there's money available to fix our sidewalks. Like there's money available to chip seal, roads. So those things, like the work is paid for. There's money to crack seal, but I haven't been able to like find the time to get bids on crack seal so I can go and say, okay, this is how much, like, give me money. And then they do. And so like I feel like if I had someone to manage like those smaller projects, like, the painting or their church reservoir floor, I mean, there's like lots of like small jobs that take a lot of time to collect all the bids and do the communication and get the paperwork all together. And it's that, to me, that's like,
That's a frustrating part for
that's the
you.
frustrating part for me, because then I'm watching, like, I know there's pipe that's going to be going in, and someone really should be going to look and make sure that it's all being vetted, and someone should really be standing out there saying, get rid of that root, please, because it's going to be a sinkhole for me later. Like those conversations, like they'll do it if you're there, but if you're not showing interest and not showing up, like it's just,
And that falls all on you.
no, it doesn't. And the crew is like engaged in that too, but they have their own work that they, need to be doing.
Mhm.
And I guess I feel like it is like my responsibility to be doing those inspections and making sure people aren't like, tying into their downspouts to the sewer system, and that,
Is that, and help me out here.
approaches.
So if I'm doing a project, say Schneider, who does the inspections on how they are putting that stuff in? Like a building inspector, if you're building a house, you've got a building inspector comes in, does the foundation, inspects the foundation. You've got electrical inspector comes in and does that. How does that work on a public works project? Who's the
Sometimes
sign off?
Sometimes you pay somebody to do it, like for the wastewater treatment plant, like we're paying Wallace to babysit and review all the submittals
Right.
and stuff. But Genevieve, we don't have anybody, so it's me. Like, but that's a big job. Like, that's a really
Yeah.
big job. Like, and they have an engineer. And so we've been, I've said, okay, send your submittals through him, but he's not catching anything. It's not his infrastructure. Like, he's hired by the developer, so it's not his infrastructure. So, a couple of things that, I've kicked over to like Tim's, like, what are you missed this, like you missed this. And a few things I've seen, I'm like, this isn't meeting, like you missed this. And so it's that kind of like, that's the frustrating, but this is not just a Carolyn sob story.
No, no, no,
Like,
no,
but-
no, no,
Well, no,
because I want to move to Ben next and
But the construction on our infrastructure is where I feel like I should really be spending time, and I don't feel like I can, and collecting, bids and some of this other like kind of more minor project management stuff. I feel like someone else should and could be able to do that. and
Okay.
I don't have anyone to do it. So,
So manpower for you.
yeah,
But specific manpower, it's not just
Specific
like
manpower.
going, anybody can
Specific.
grab these bids. That's not the true story. You have to
No.
know what you're doing, you have to be trained, you have to be able
you
to
have
do
to
it.
have some sort of like understanding of
Right.
Okay.
public works or construction or design, something.
Okay, Ben? And the reason I'm asking this is
Yeah.
because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where the pressure is coming from on you guys to adequately do your jobs.
I'm trying to think strategically and not like in the now. So strategically, 10 years from now, water and sewer bills are gonna be unbearable for everyone. And so what can we do today to defray that? Downtown development, adding users to the system, downtown infill development. Is necessary, and so that's going to relate to financial health. We strategically, again, we're known for being sticklers for people who come in to ask for a permit, but then if you don't ask for a permit, you get off. So we need to increase our code enforcement. Strategically, I think we need to demonstrate how we're facilitating development in other ways and not just being regulators before we really ramp that up so that we have this wholeness of what we're doing. Like we are actively encouraging it. We've done this and this and this for development for the community, and you're not in line with everything that's been going on to match this other portion of the pie chart of we're ensuring all the new permits are active in this. It's your turn. It's your turn to contribute to that. So don't think we're there yet for code enforcement. It shows out there. And so like the Columbia Avenue type of project, if not that project, I think is really important for the city's overall story as it relates to downtown development, financial health, the look and feel type of thing that we do. Cracking the expansion nut that we have out there. So it's not affordable for somebody to develop, annex and develop because we allowed the water system to totally outstrip the sewer system, and the sewer is the expensive one. And so going back on that, don't improve, don't expand, just maintain thing is hard, but for sewer, we would need to. It's almost impossible because sewer bills are exorbitant and there's no money in that. So that's a really tough one.
Yeah. We don't have that one. But isn't there thoughtful planning?
Oh.
Official development?
Yeah. So what, how do you want to
Yeah, we don't.
put the idea on the list over here, but whatever it's called?
The strategic land use planning and development.
And we. The sewer plan was beneficial because it laid out all the things that we have to do. And we had to do it. And so that gave us some marching orders and we did it. Water plan is beneficial because it gave us all the things that we could do. And should. And we're implementing those as we can, but it's not a have to. we don't have those similar plans for storm street. We're putting it together on a small basis for things like shoreline access and parking, downtown parking plan. Seems like having those higher level plans put together would help all the decision making we do for which improvement project and how to get it. You talked about shelf plans for water. You can describe that more. But Stevenson has been good at doing the small thing that we can do, the easy thing, the low hanging fruit. And then it leaves us with a bunch of hard stuff, hard, expensive stuff. And so a lot of that hard, expensive stuff needs the broader plan too. I don't think I'm really conveying like all the things that are going on up there, but the harder stuff benefits from having the broader plan so that it can be tied to different things. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, because we did a lot of this, we did this exercise a year ago. That's where this list came from. This exactly what you're talking about, the short term and the long term. So are we for budget, are we talking about things that are going to be important for budgeting for, as opposed to have we already decided that this project list is good? I feel like we're going.
This
Meeting right now.
This discussion is helping to inform what's in the CIP. And then what's in the CIP continually helps to then inform the budget as well. Kind of.
So I'm not sure if we're getting anywhere with our strategic plan.
Well, no, I think
We're
we've
not getting
solidified
anywhere.
it, so,
I think we've
right,
talked it
it's
out.
not moving, and that's a decision, and so that helps.
So I think not
No,
changing.
it's like in general, talking about for right now,
Oh,
as far as making any changes tonight, I
Yeah.
think we've
right, yeah, no changes are gonna be made today, right? I mean, that's.
Stay the
well,
course.
consensus. Well, and like I said, so, we'll have like a parking lot, and so when some of these things move off, then we can add the others back on. And maybe it's a matter of, I don't know, I can see how to work it in,
Mhm.
maybe, year 6+, I don't know. So.
Parking lot with the handicap parking.
I mean, so from my perspective, once the wastewater treatment plant project is done, that should free up a lot of my time. Just for a heads up, I spent
Storm.
the past 2 weeks solidly on financial reporting for all of the wastewater projects. And that's just through, I mean, I haven't gotten to just the procurement part for EPA, and then that's just for wastewater. So, it's a big time suck with multiple, I'm getting now 3 federal agencies to deal with on a project. So, and what that takes me out of is from doing that strategic thinking to see what is needed to support staff and what they need to do. And so without that, it's kind of like every man for themselves. Without that umbrella of, okay, here's how we can work on this all together, and have that better vision to move forward and to help come up with all of the things that randomly pop up throughout the year.
So because we had the DOE came through and we were talking to, I was talking to Wallace. It's like, so what do you think? And he goes, well, depending on your growth, 30-40 years. So we're not this is the type of a lift that this city staff won't be staring down the barrel of for anyone sitting at the table again. So anything coming after this is not going to be this anymore. Hopefully it's only this.
Mhm.
So you're gonna stay the course. Hopefully the balloon doesn't break. And then things will start to, time will start to open up.
Mhm.
We can start to move some of those rocks that we've been walking around.
Trying not to make the bulk of what we're doing in the wastewater system, as far as the number and volume of projects, the norm. That's my goal right now. And that's why it's like, okay, so only 1 to 2 projects a year, because this is not sustainable on not just
Effective,
staff, but
efficient.
also resources. I mean, you can only get so many loans and then you don't have the capital to pay because you don't have the funds built up. So that's my goal, is to pay cash instead of having to get all these loans. But without having the time to build that up.
So, try to make this real. So you brought up Lakeview. And there's a
Right.
project that may or may not advance a strategy for a focus area. If staff's presentation of the the transportation improvement plan and the capital improvement plan is stripping projects off of there to say that it can't be done under the budget or the structure, is that something that is going to be surprising to you or untenable to you guys in some way when it comes back to you at the public hearing to say your staff's not said they're not going to do anything?
So for me, I know speaking for me, but no, not at all. Like if we go, okay, we had these 9 things lined out that we wanted to do. That was our plan, and it worked out. We can only do 4 of them. These have to be on hold. We can't do this right now. Who am I to say, no, you have to do these 9? That's no, you're not doing anything. You're not doing enough. Why'd you close your door on Friday if you're not going to get all 9 of these done? You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, we rely on you to tell us what's feasible and manageable in your day and in your month and in your year. We're not the ones we're not dictating to you. If you go, this isn't, the funds didn't come through, or the timing isn't right, or we don't have the ability to do this right now. Okay. Maybe we talk about alternatives. Maybe we, make a subcommittee to come up with different ideas. Like, there are things we can do, but it won't shock me if things have to change, because they always do, because life happens and things come up that we didn't see coming a year ago, or something will happen in 6 months we didn't see coming either. Like,
This plan does not include, didn't think that was going to break today, and
Right.
didn't see that money falling out of the sky today.
right,
Yeah.
things will get bumped up because, hey, this show, like
Right,
we talked about
exactly.
the internet.
Oh,
line,
has
right?
even started.
It showed up,
Like I'm
and
knocking at
we
the door.
absolutely weren't asking for that. And we didn't go, if you guys don't come up with this is on the plan right now. No, it just showed up, right?
Yeah.
So that takes precedent, and that takes time as well, but that's why we have to have some kind of flexibility. So no, I don't think that we're gonna be like, if we see a change, that we're gonna find that unacceptable. Unless somebody else at this table does find it unacceptable. I don't.
I mean, it depends on what it is, I can't say.
All right, any other thoughts?
Please no.
I want to make sure. I know that Dave is passionate about the fireworks ordinance. Do we have some ordinances that we can take a look at? That,
There's a lot of old stuff in there if you want to go.
no,
Sorry.
because I am not for more governance. Okay, I think government in and of itself is way too big. But at the same time, I also understand where Dave's coming from. In regards to, leaving it up to an individual to make those decisions without any kind of guidance
Mhm.
from the city.
So MRSC is
Pardon?
where MRSC.org. It'd be where I would go. Or is it- or go, I don't know.
It's
Or
easy to look
dot
up.
org. Yeah, it's easy to
Google
look up. That's where I would find example ordinances on fireworks. So they have a pretty good search engine that you can use to look up fireworks.
The time in that. Don't want to dive into fireworks either,
Thank
isn't
you.
developing the policy.
No,
Oh, no.
no,
It's
that's
the
the easy part.
political support behind it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Our world was on fire And it didn't lead to anything. There was an emergency that could have led to change. It didn't. I think with you guys sitting around the table here, there's not a majority of you that are saying, we're gonna do this, so.
And like I said, even the community was split with
Yeah.
the survey. So again,
We always
until
do.
there's.
We had the worst case scenario.
Mhm.
And it didn't lead to any action.
Bit of motion.
That's good. Staff. 7:21.
That was a good refresher. Well, I mean, I haven't seen that stuff for a while.
Yeah.